Hello, and welcome to episode 26 of the Pos-cast, the Rabbi Shmuel Posner and myself, Seth Hellman. We have a huge mazel tov in order today. Rabbi Posner's son finally got married. It finally happened. You've been hearing about it for a month and a half or so, 2 months, however long it's been at this point. Everyone who's been listening to the podcast since the start knew this was happening. It actually happened. Rabbi, how was it? I'm sure it was absolutely amazing, as all Chabad weddings are.
This was more amazing than any other wedding. It was really. I'm coming to you live from Montreal, Canada. So we're here, celebrating the post-wedding Sheva Brachas, and that's why the background is not the usual whatever you used to. The wedding was very beautiful. I'll tell you why. What made it that way? Because the chassan and kala, the bride and groom, didn't want to have like a typical Montreal or Crown Heights wedding where basically the whole community comes in, is invited, and people will come in and leave. You have your core people, and people, let's say 200 people, and another 200 people come in for an average of 15 minutes, which is, in that sense, very beautiful. The whole community comes. You meet a lot of people. Well, they didn't want that. They wanted to have a focused group of people that every single person that's there, my son and his wife, knew personally. I wanted to celebrate with them, and that's what happened. So we went a little bit outside of Montreal. It wasn't in the Jewish section by design, and had the energy was really. I mean, starting with Crown Heights Shabbos, where he had the Afrof, he had his Aliyah in the Rebbe's room, which I went for that as well. I drove on Friday to Crown Heights, and after Shabbos drove back to Boston, and Sunday morning drove to Montreal. And each one of those events, being at Crown Heights on Shabbos, and we had the Kiddush in my brother's house. Thank you very much, Uri. We had it in that you probably stayed in his house. When there was like a group of people that came, his friends, that really connected to him, and you can see that the camaraderie there goes back many, many years, and that propelled it back, into the night before the wedding. 10 of his friends came over to the place we were staying. He was staying with us that night, and they hung out. I went to sleep. They were hanging out for a couple of hours. Then at the wedding, it was really powerful. It was wonderful. There was a lot of positive energy, and again, like I said, Friday night last week, and this past Shabbos, Hani ran Shabbos in Boston, and she also asked, she went around the table and said, "Tell me why you're here," and got a very amazing answers and a lot of positive interaction. People, saying why they came for Shabbos and how they feel about the situation, and the same with the wedding, which is a lot of simcha. But I would just, every time, I was dancing in the back of my mind. I said, I'm going to dance a little bit harder for the Jews in Israel, because this is what Hashem wants us to do, is rejoice at the wedding, and God reflects us. We're doing the mitzvah with our full heart, dancing, and and really being happy with the chassan and kala. Hashem, we are your bride, you're our groom. Make us be happy with us. So that's where we're at, and obviously that's going to be again the subject of the next few minutes. We'll be together, and So let's move on.
So if you're watching us instead of listening to us, obviously you've seen the third head in the window here. We've got Peter Klein joining us. We have, I think this is our third guest now on the podcast.
Yes.
So yeah, Peter Klein.
So guests, we don't just not every week a guest. This is very exclusive.
Yes. So we have an exclusive visit here from Peter Klein, and I'll show you what sparked the visit here, what made Rabbi Posner want to have him join us. And if you just give me a moment here to pull it up, there it is. Boom. So in theory, you should be able to see this. It's a text that Peter sent to Rabbi Posner last week saying, "On this cowardly global day of jihad, I am proudly wearing my kippah all day on work Zoom calls and out of the house. Tefillin, check, Shabbos candles coming up soon." So that is what Peter sent to Rabbi Posner last week, and what has kind of sparked this visit. So Peter, how you doing today? And what sparked you to send this to Rabbi Posner as well?
Yeah, no, thank you, Seth. Thank you, Rabbi. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on this Pos-cast. I've been a devout follower. I've enjoyed it through the happier moments as well as the more somber. So it's very meaningful for me to be here today. In terms of, Seth, the question you asked, what sparked that text? Um, Obviously, as so many of us had complicated reactions to last Saturday. Complicated is probably the most PC way I can say it. If we weren't on a Pos-cast, I would probably use some expletives. I'd be a lot more angry, and hopefully you can start to see that I was furious. I was really, I was shocked. I was horrified, and initially I felt helpless, and I didn't want to feel helpless. Maybe call me a control freak, maybe call me a project manager, but I wanted to do something. I have family in Israel. I spoke with them. I spoke with friends. I literally went through every single number in my phone. Even if I didn't speak with someone for months, years, even a decade, I texted them and checked in on them because it was critical to me. And when I was going home from work Thursday evening, I was listening to some podcasts and I heard about this global day of jihad. And initially I laughed, like, what the heck is this about? Hasn't there been enough hate? Hasn't there been enough pain and absurdity? Right? There's really just there's no need to bring more innocent people into danger as a result of this. And I went into my coping mechanism, which was, okay, what am I going to do about this? I'm not overly frum on the outside. I am in here. And while I do tefillin every day, and I think that's a testament to Rabbi Posner, I don't wear a kippah usually. And I thought to myself, okay, let me brush off all the mitzvot that I can do. Let me think about what I can do. Charity, check. Checking in with people, check. Talking with family, check. Let me wear my kippah. I'm fortunate to live in a safe community in Long Island, New York. And I thought to myself, I'm wearing it. Excuse me, but screw this. I don't care. I'm doing it. And I can tell you more about how that day went, but let me pause there. And that was really the impetus. And once I did that, of course, I have to check in with Rabbi. I have to tell him what's going on. I have to, bring him some nachas, some excitement, some joy. And if I may share, Rabbi, your response was amazing. I'm waiting for the head nod before, because I noticed you didn't snapshot your response to my text. Is it okay if I share that?
Hey, you got the mic.
All right, so I'm doing it. So yeah, I chat with Rabbi Posner infrequently, I should say, but I would say we're still close. So I texted him that.
Maybe step back, give an overview of our relationship, when it started, and how to fit into your life for a few.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to finish this whole response while it's still fresh, and then I'm going to go back if that's okay.
Okay.
So it's been a few months since I spoke with Rabbi Posner, and I sent him this text like, I'm ready. I'm doing this. And his response was three words. He said, "I love you." And honestly, I was like, wow. I screenshotted that. I sent it to my wife. Rabbi knows my wife, Fiona. We did Sinai Scholars together. I'll get into that. Shout out Sinai Scholars. Do it. If you're thinking about it, it's worth it. You'll realize it's not for the money. It's for what happens inside. But that impacted me. Even just hearing you, even seeing you say that. So that impacted me.
So I'll respond to that immediately. So last week there was a meeting, not at BU, at Berkeley College of Music, and they have a Jewish student organization there, which I'm connected to, and they had a sizable amount of kids for that school, probably like 40, 50 kids, and talking about, each one was sharing their feelings, and there was a few Israelis there who literally broke down in tears because they know people. I mean, it was very powerful. And there was, this give and take up and back. And I'm just, as a guest, I'm just sitting amongst the crowd there. I mean, they know me, but it wasn't my program, so I wasn't leading it. And then somebody says something about some kid that I know, something about where's God? How does God fit into this? Something like that. And so another kid chimed in, and all of a sudden I have 40 kids looking at me like, new. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm God's representative here, and started talking about, this idea of not being. when you see a bully, you got to stand up to them in their face. You don't cower. If you cower, they win. So and in this whole day, Rachel was coming up. Like I was saying, like, guys, you got to wear your yarmulke every, just even if you don't usually do it. I think some campus started a thing called keepers on campus. Like, just, and I know this, if you see another Jew walking down the street wearing a yarmulke when you're on campus, you feel strengthened. You feel like there's a camaraderie, even if you know who the person is. So I'm like going on, like, wear your yarmulke, wear 2 yarmulkes, wear 4 yarmulkes. Let the women wear yarmulkes. I don't care. Wear a chamsa, wear a Star of David, wear something that screams, I'm Jewish. Jews are feeling like, there's enough people who are very vocal against us. Let's have more Jews that are supporting, just quietly supporting each other. You see another Jew, when you walk into a room, immediately you know who the Jews are. Jews find Jews, a kind of magnet that we have embedded into us, which of course is our godly soul, that connect us one to the other. And so, let's see that. Let make that happen. And there was one guy, actually an Israeli, was like a real, a tough Israeli. I was in the army. I did Krav Maga. Blah, 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 blah. And Friday, I'm going to be staying in my room. And I'm like, it wasn't a forum to, for an up and back. And I didn't feel it was worth it. Just I made my statement, and people heard it, and this legitimized people who felt that they were afraid, which is much less than those that were, that his applause was much less than mine, which meant to mean that more people felt the way. But I realized there's that, minority of people that do feel that way, and I understand. There are people that, like one girl, Hani was talking about, coming for Shabbos. I'm doing Shabbos in my room, and I felt bad for her. Like, you can be in a room with 20, 30 other Jews. It will uplift you. It'll make, and that's Shabbos. Forget about the fact that you have Hani's food. You have a whole atmosphere, and you're going to sit in your room like you're in Soviet Union, during communist Russia. Come on. So when I got your text, and I've been meeting other students on campus. Same thing. I can't believe my friends posted this stuff. I thought they're my friends, and I'm like, I got bad news for you. If you want real friends, you got to find another Jew, because there's a deep soul connection with a shared history. You may not like their external personality, but deep down, those are your friends. And you have other people, non-Jews. I get like you got in your town. I was driving from Boston to Montreal, so we stopped in Vermont for at a rest stop, and my leg is hurting me. So I'm like, this is like this table. It's a little bit higher than a normal table. I'm leaning over the table, like trying to work the pain out of my leg. And so this guy walks over, this big guy, and his wife, who was a little guy, a little woman, and he says to me, "Howdy," and howdy. I'm immediately I'm thinking, if he's Jewish, I'm gonna get tefillin onto him, but it didn't seem it was going that direction. Howdy, okay, howdy, how you, whatever. He walks out, and 5 minutes later he comes back, and he says to me, "Are you Jewish or Amish?" This is Vermont. You got to understand. To them, Jews and Amish, they probably see an equal amount. I said, "I'm Jewish," and he goes into this whole thing. I'm really sorry for what's going on. And he says, "I'm not Jewish," and it seems that he's a whatever. I didn't ask him his religion, but I pretty much can imagine what it is. He starts quoting the Bible and starts laying down the curses for these people, and I just said, "Look, we as the Jews, we are strong, we're resilient, we're going to rise above it. And I'm very happy to have people like you who are friends with us." And that was it. So when you send your message, which I didn't say anything to you directly. I don't know if you were influenced by something I said on the Pos-cast or anything else. I don't know, but I know, to me it came out of nowhere. Meaning it was like unsolicited. It's like whoever puts on film, people send me a photo, and we'll make it a gallery, which some people do that, And it came out of nowhere, just like this, like a bolt of light, of warmth, of holiness, because it wasn't, that here you are on your own initiative. Yes, you put on film, and that's amazing. And then you're like, our own initiative, I'm going to shove it in their face. I'm going to wear my yarmulke. And to me, that was like, when I say to somebody, I love you, it's not like, like when people come and say oh man, you're not sure, you got to go to X, Y, and Z restaurant. You're going to love it. My response to them is automatically, what, Seth? When people say they love this or love that, what do I say?
You should love Hashem.
Right. I say, I love Hashem. I'm not going to waste my love on a burger or on a cheesecake. How do you love that? You can live without it. What do you love? And what so
I just want to point out that the only reason why Rabbi can't love a burger is because he either A, gives them to me to cook and they're frozen and so they don't come out well, or B, he makes them himself so they don't come out well.
thank you very much for that. So when I saw it, like wow, I just felt this. I'm going to say, oh, it's amazing, it's great. That didn't grasp what really contextual, what really expressed what I was feeling. My mind, my heart was like, wow, this is just amazing. It was wonderful. That's why it came out that way. Anyway, um, yeah. So now we're going to go back to putting yourself into context, how you got here on the Pos-cast in 2023.
Sure. Yeah. Before we started recording, Rabbi Posner was very flattering and said, "What, you graduated 10 years ago, 5 years ago?" It's been 15 years since I graduated from Boston University. So the background on me is I'm a BU grad from 2008, and it took me 4 whole years, or 3.5 whole years, to come to the Chabad house. I won't speak negatively about the other organizations or whatever, but once I came to the Chabad house through Sinai Scholars, I was immediately hooked. And I'll be honest, and I could go into my background in just a moment if helpful, but I'll be honest, I wasn't attracted initially by the, call it the traditional Judaism, the Torah, the mitzvot. I was attracted to the analysis of the Jewish faith, to the arguments that Rabbi Posner shared with the group. And I remember going to, I don't know what you called it then or whatever, there was like different study and one-to-one and all these things. And I remember just arguing with you about so many different things and loving it, because this was the first time that I met a religious Jewish person that I felt like I can relate to. Not obviously, we look different, we have different backgrounds, but I can relate to from an intellectual standpoint, from a conversational standpoint. And I think you did a fantastic job of bringing that up, bringing that sideways to my level and to other people's level. And I was hooked. And, from that moment on, I think my Judaism took off. And I started doing tefillin. I went to shul a little bit more, went to Israel. That's a whole nother conversation, of course. And, I'll be honest, I haven't turned into the most frum person, but I feel a lot more connected, a lot more spiritual, a lot more religious after going through Sinai Scholars than I did before. And that's a direct testament to you, Rabbi Posner, and to Sinai Scholars.
Let's talk a little bit even before that, too. So I heard you before, you said you live in a place in Long Island, which, using my powers of deduction, tells me that you're not originally from Long Island. So where are you originally from, and what was your community like growing up?
Great assessment, Seth, but you're wrong.
Oh, really?
I grew up on Long Island. So I often mask like different accents. I try to be more of a nomadic person, and let me tell you about myself to tell you why I feel that way. Of course, I can speak Long Islandish. I could talk about coffees and all this other nonsense, but I try to turn it to a different notch for other audiences occasionally. So I'll start in the beginning. This won't be long. I'll do the abbreviated version. But my background is I was born in what was then Czechoslovakia, now Slovakia, eastern Slovakia, so a city called Košice. The region was incredibly Jewish before the Holocaust. Each of my grandparents were one of 8, 12, and then surviving, anywhere from 1 to 4. And my parents were probably, I think they were basically effectively the last ones to leave communist Czechoslovakia out of their siblings, out of their cousins. I have cousins that came to the U.S. in the 1920s once they saw things starting going off the wrong path, but we waited until 1989. 3 months before the wall fell and before communism ended in Czechoslovakia. So my parents have gone through tons of stories of how they were persecuted, made fun of, didn't get the right jobs, didn't get into the right schools because of who they were, because they were Jewish. They told me about, how they had to have a chuppah in secret, and getting circumcised was a whole nother conversation we don't even want to talk about here, and all these hardships. So while I am, and I sound like a native New Yorker, and again, I'll bring this back to Rabbi Posner. When he first met me, he was confused. My wife, her maiden name is Gershon Gorina, or in more like English terms, Gershon Gorina. Her maiden name was Fiona Gershon Gorina. He thought to himself, what's this American yobo, Peter Klein, doing with this assumingly Russian woman, Fiona Gershon Gorina? Did he woo her in some capacity? But that is the story of my life. I mask my background almost intentionally, and that has impacted my Judaism. So I grew up in Brooklyn, in Canarsie. I then moved to Long Island, to Plainview in Long Island, and grew up primarily there before going to Boston. And this whole background, having grandparents who survived the Holocaust, my grandmother had a horrendous tattoo from Auschwitz on her arm, and all these things that I could speak on and on about, colored, and my parents' upbringing, I should say, about being a Jew in communist Czechoslovakia colored how I felt about Judaism and how I felt about myself. It's about fitting in. It's about believing in things on the inside, but when it comes to the outside, I'm just an American guy, whatever. I'm a New Yorker. I can talk about bagels, the Knicks, Yankees, whatever. It's about fitting in. And the last few years, I've put that aside. Wearing my kippah, talking about Judaism, talking about how things feel, I'm beyond that. I'm way beyond that. And I think that's a testament to people like you, Rabbi Posner. I've met other people at companies that I've worked with that have taught me how to be more loud and proud about my Judaism, about my faith, about my culture. And I'm over being a fit-in, meek Jew. Screw that. I'm well past that, and I'm happy to talk more about that.
How does this affect your family? You have children.
And you're saying how does recent
How
events?
how are you raising them differently than you? Like,
Yeah,
are you
yeah.
not going to allow them to come to college, and you like how are they different than you when
So
you
they're
grew up?
absolutely so they're different than me in that Fiona and I, my wife and I, we talk about things with our kids. So my kids are 8 and 6. My son Jonah is 8. My daughter Elia is 6, and we are intentional about keeping them informed about what's going on. Partially, we do not shield them too much. So of course we try to make things age appropriate, but we tell them about what's going on in the world. Last week we went to a vigil. There were tears, there was anger, there was frustration. They were there. We spoke about it, we prepared them for it, we spoke about it after. Jonah, in true 8-year-old boy fashion, bottles it up. He doesn't talk about it, and then he misbehaves the next day because obviously it's disconcerting. But we try to talk through it and tell him how we feel as well. Because I think if we can model that right behavior, if we can expose him to what's important to us as people and as a nation, I think that can change. And yes, we were doing Hebrew school, and we're going through the usual milestones like that. But I think it's more than just that. I think it's building that identity for our kids. And I'll do one quick anecdote, and Fiona will be thrilled that I'm saying this. Jonah may be embarrassed, but I don't think he subscribes to this, so it's okay. They're doing geography in his 3rd grade class, and there's a question on homework. I don't know if it's homework or schoolwork, whatever. He came home with this piece of paper, and it said, "Where are your ancestors from?" And my wife is from Moldova, former Soviet Union. I'm from Slovakia, and we're usually pretty clear about that. They know. Both my kids love that food and everything. We're clear that we were born from there. So the average person would say, okay, my ancestors are from, and the question was, what continent, are your ancestors from? And typical answer would be, okay, Europe, Slovakia, Moldova, Europe, easy, fine. He had like 3 lines written. He said, well, my parents were born in Slovakia and Moldova, so that means Europe. However, I'm a Jew. And that means I'm from Israel and I'm from Asia. And there was like a question mark or something like that. And Fiona was quelling. She was beaming. She was like, holy moly, something is registered in this brain, this massive brain of an 8-year-old boy, that especially because we've been talking nonstop about Israel. He hears in the background. He knows, like, he saw me cry in shul at that vigil. He knows what it means. And he internalized that. I'm not just from Europe. Like my ancestors, my capital A ancestors are from Israel. And that was massive. So something is working. I don't know if it's me. It's probably not me. It's probably my wife, of course. But it's him too. It's how he internalizes things, and I think that's amazing.
Incredible, amazing. It is amazing.
See, I'd argue that he answered that question the right way and everyone else answered it the wrong way, right? Because when I think about my ancestors, like, I don't consider my grandfather my ancestor. Like, even though it technically fits in the definition, I met my grandfather. I knew my grandfather, right? So if you're thinking like ancestor, I think he answered that better than anyone else in that class probably did. That's a much more accurate representation.
So let me pop in with a Rebbe story. So this is any Lubavitcher in the world has heard this multiple times, and you'll hear why in a second. It's a story with George Rohr, who was the supporter of the Sinai Scholars, amongst many other amazing programs he does for Chabad around the world. So in his early days, when he was younger, he wasn't this big Lubavitcher and doing all these programs. He was connected to Chabad, but he wasn't doing all these programs yet. But would he and people would come to the Rebbe at different occasions during the year when the Rebbe, like before Russia, before Yom Kippur, the Rebbe would give out honey cake, and it's a custom. So, and he figured, the way he tells the story is that people would come and tell the Rebbe they need this, they need that, and he thought, I'm going to come to the Rebbe and give the Rebbe some good news, make him for a change. So he comes to the Rebbe and tells him that he was then part of Lincoln Square Synagogue in Manhattan. And he says to the Rebbe that I organized for Rosh Hashanah a minyan for Jews with no background. And we had like 250 people, which is like, a beginner's minyan, which is incredible. And he said, and I'm planning again on Yom Kippur to have a minyan for Jews without a background, that they should be able to become from shul. And he tells the story like he's saying this to the Rebbe, and he expects the Rebbe to give him a big smile, and he sees on the Rebbe's face, the Rebbe's not happy. And he thinks to himself, like, what did I do wrong? What did I say? What did I not say? And the Rebbe says to him, Jews with no background, they are children of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rachel, and Leah. And as he goes away, the Rebbe gives him a piece of cake, and then he gives him another piece. This is for the Jews with no background. So to the Rebbe, which was very clear, exactly what you guys are saying, every Jew has a background. Our fathers and our mothers, right? Avot and imahot. Who are the fathers? 4 are the mothers. 3 are the fathers. 2 are the luchas. 1 is Hashem. Anyway, so this there's 4 mothers and 3 fathers. That's what we have. So that's actually very accurate. And the fact that your son is expressing that is truly amazing and a testament that you're doing something right. As Seth knows, you never can give somebody a full compliment. You got to push them a little more. Okay. Now that was Friday morning. Now you sent another message on Friday afternoon, but candlelighting in New York is about 15 minutes after candlelighting in Boston. So I had shut my phone. Every time I'm going to shut my phone before Shabbos, I was like, let's say Shabbos starts. Candlelighting was at 6:00, right? So it's 5:30. I'm like, who else is going to be calling me now? It's like, I'm just shutting my phone, and I did. And after Shabbos, I look and there's a message at 6:03, which I wouldn't look at my phone after. And let's see what the message was, Seth.
Assuming I got the right one here. Can you see that?
Yeah, there should be 3 of them, right?
Well, there are 3, but I can't share all 3 at the same time. So I can...
Right. Let's just go through them. Everybody will get the feeling what we're talking about.
This is great podcasting here.
Well, we need a better producer. We need an
Yeah.
engineer. Sorry. Okay, that's number 2. Now comes number 3. And the text message that accompanies it. We have that too.
I don't have the text messages that accompanies it. I only have the photos, but I can read the message.
Okay, read the message.
So the message that goes along with this one is got 3 friends at soccer to rap. Good Shabbos.
Okay. All right. So first of all, of course, I have to point out that the Shalosh was a little bit low, and Peter responded and said it was in the right place. This is at the photo. So because people will tell. I'm saying this. I want to avoid getting the thing. I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I mentioned that there was 200 terrorists came across the border. My sister-in-law says more like 1,000. Okay, I just want to let this stand corrected. So this comes after Shabbos. And then that's really when I said, okay, I got to get this guy onto the Pos-cast. It's not enough that he wears a yarmulke, proudly wears a yarmulke, and at work, and in his town, all that. Now he's out there with his film. But who puts on film with other people? There isn't another Jew in the world who's not a Lubavitcher that does this. Nobody does this. You don't find, I don't care, any Jew doesn't walk into, you walk into shul and the guy hasn't filmed. Any shul, someone will come over to him, I hope, and say, you want to put on tefillin. But how have you ever met a not openly expressed Lubavitcher, Chabadnik, putting on tefillin with people at soccer practice? Like, first of all, who brings their tefillin to soccer practice? Like, if your son saw it, he said, Dad, what are you doing? We're not going to synagogue. Why are you doing this? And your wife probably like, have you lost your mind? You're going to shul again? Like, what is going on? So, Peter, take it away, because you got to break this down.
No, I've got some logic, I think. First of all, when I sent it, I was like, oh no, am I going to put a Chabad out of business here? What's going to go on? What's going to happen? All these guys asking if you're Jewish, you want to put tefillin on. But I'll leave the Chabadniks to do it, because I think, as you saw, my game could improve. I got to make sure, everything is kosher and it'll continue to be.
You're a fill-in rapper intern, so we'll
Exactly.
give you a little.
All right. I got to go through the course first and get certified.
On the job training. We have no time for it.
Exactly.
No, it's the same thing when I come out as a shliach. You think like, oh, did you go to shliach school? It's like, no, I learned in yeshiva. I listened to the Rebbe and learned his teachings. That's your training. There's no, like when you meet a guy on the street, you should say this to him. Like no one ever told us that. All right, continue.
Yep. So Friday, again, this whole announcement of this global day of jihad really impacted me, as you can tell. I was doing my work. Of course, I'm at work. I'm telling the truth. I did what I had to do, but my brain was not at work. It really wasn't. And I told my boss at some point, it was early afternoon. I told her, because she hadn't addressed anything with me that week, saying, the events that happened in Israel, the terrorist attack, have really impacted me. I have family, and this really touches me personally. I apologize if you've noticed, my head's just not in it. And that was true. I was texting with so many people, sending voice messages all over the place. I feel like Israelis love voice messages on WhatsApp and exchanging those and everything. And I was thinking to myself, okay, keep a good, the same checklist. I was going through my list. I was talking to Fiona, my wife, about shul, and we weren't sure if it was the right thing to do to go to shul with Jonah that night. But I was thinking to myself, okay, I live in a town of Jews. It's 50, 60, 70%. I don't know the demographics, but so many people I know are Jewish. And I coach soccer. I coach both Jonah and Elia's soccer. And through that, I've developed a good relationship, a good friendship with a lot of people. Really, warm, nice people that also happen to be primarily Jewish. And I thought to myself, okay, how can I continue to share this light and to give a big, to people who are trying to spread hate? And I saw all these notes going out from company CEOs, from sports teams, whatever. And I thought to myself, okay, I understand why our local soccer club is not sending anything, but let me do something on the DL. So I gathered the name of, it ended up being like a whole list of 40 people or 30 people at the end of the day that I sent it to, all on BCC. I didn't want anyone to be like outed or whatever or anything like that. But I sent a message saying, as I'm sure many of you have felt, I've been impacted by the attacks, and it's hard to focus on life, and it's hard to keep a good, calm, grounded perspective for our families. But I find solace in doing mitzvot and sharing light. And this is what I've done. And I'm not the most religious person, but I do tefillin, and I know how to do it, and I know how to rap and say the prayers. And if anyone is interested in doing that, let me know. This is, and I said, no pressure. If not, like, ignore this, read this, internalize this. I don't care. I just felt like I had to say something. So let me know if you want. I could come to your house. We could do it, for the people that are going to be at practice later, we can do it there. And I got a message, not from all 30 people, but I got a message from a decent amount of people. And it was heartwarming. It was nice. And some people said, yeah, this is horrible. This is awful. Thank you so much for sharing this. And one guy that was going to be at practice said, okay, I'll be there. If you're going to be there, bring your tefillin, let's do it. So I said, awesome, perfect. So I brought my tefillin. Even before I get out of my car, I hear a shout from this guy who's sitting in his car saying, Peter! I'm like, where is he? Where is he? And, I go talk to him. He's like, my sister is Orthodox, and they didn't grow up Orthodox. He said, she got religious later in life, and she's always trying to get me to do more Jewish things, and I think she'll be very proud, and I feel like this is the right thing for me to do. He said, I haven't done tefillin since my bar mitzvah, but if there's ever a time to do it, now is the time. So we did it. I showed him on myself, did it on him, and it was great. And we walked back to the fields, and a couple of guys saw me, and they're like, you think we still have time? Do we still have time? So I got two more guys to do it. And and yeah, each time, one guy said he was involved in Chabad in college. Another guy said also he hadn't done it since his bar mitzvah. But like you said, Rabbi, I think once I acknowledged the Judaism, everyone kind of came out with their stories of, I did this in college, or my sister's religious, or I have family here, or I've been doing self-defense because I'm so concerned about my safety and the safety of my kids. And it created more of a human conversation versus just the transactional, oh, how's soccer? Good. How are the boys doing? Good. Whatever. Like, fine, but that's BS, right? That's not connecting on a human level. That's just, whatever, keeping your eyes closed while you're living your life. And here I was able to develop some relationships, which was nice. And the last thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up again. So one person that I included was a more religious person. He's Shomer Shabbos. His son plays soccer. He's, funny anecdote, we call him the Hebrew Hammer. He's an incredible soccer player. This boy is fantastic, like amazing. And he's like tough, and he's great. And he's awesome. This boy's fantastic. And the father is lovely, very nice guy. And he said he was actually traveling all week and everything, and he responded to me only on Monday, and he said, I was also touched by your email. He said, if you ever want to come to shul with me, I usually go on Shabbos. I try to go a couple of days during the week as well for Minyan. If you ever want to go with me, let me know. And I responded to him. We haven't gone yet. We're trying to find the right time to do it. But I was touched by that too. So I think that it was just a very good unifier, and to put out there everyone's stories and to get more real and to talk about this, which is what I'm trying to do with my family, my friends. Like, let's get past this BS. Let's get past about, it's horrible. It's this. It is horrible. It's horrific. But let's talk about ourselves. What are we doing about it? How are we connecting as a people? And that's how I think we can ensure our safety, by connecting, by having the power of our people Israel. Like, that's how we connect. We ensure our own mutual safety. And that's been my biggest lesson over the last week.
Wow.
I mean, there are two huge things that stand out to me from that. The first one, obviously, is that, like, Rabbi Posner's teachings obviously work, right? Like, like that.
Takes 15 years, but eventually you'll get there.
Yeah, it's, at some point it kind of kicks in the back of your brain. And that, the other thing is just like, the entire point of what's going on, like the attacks, is to try to knock everything down, right? And to knock down the Jewish people and to end the Jewish people. And the opposite has happened, right? If anything, we're more close together. We're way stronger than we were before the attacks happened, right? And I just think that's really, that happens almost every single time one of these attacks happens across the world, right? We all just kind of come together and become even stronger, and that's just kind of, it's a real testament to how the Jewish people are, and it's something that happens across the globe, right? Like you're in New York doing that, and it's the same thing is happening in Boston, right? Like the Rabbi's son Mendy, right, in the Minion chat, had the kippahs on campus thing that he was mentioning before. He was like, all right, let's get everyone wearing kippahs, right? So it's happening all over the place, and I just think it's amazing to see the network kind of do its little thing, even though we're a 10-hour flight right now from Israel, from where everything's happening.
Yeah, there's no question about it that the stories of Jewish unity and helping this last line I was reading this post from, the guys, a BU alum was reporting, he was pulled up from the reserves, and there's a busload of soldiers that got out somewhere on some road, and didn't take them more than a few minutes. Some woman drives by, pops open the trunk of her car, and there's a big pot of chicken soup there, and she's giving out chicken soup. And then he says, and 20 minutes later, the Chabadniks, not to be outdone, pull up with their mitzvah thing, and they're giving out sandwiches and this, and like, the amount of chesed that's going on. There was another guy who posted a thing of, like, he's a soldier, and thank you so much for all you've done. And then he widens the screen, and the back of his minivan is covered with packages of snacks and stuff. And he's like laughing, like, guys, okay, we got enough, the amount of goodness that's coming out. But I just want to refocus on the mitzvah aspect of it. It's not just unity as unity, because the real unity of the Jew comes from the Jew within us. Like, we have three people talking to each other coming from different parts of the world. I mean, okay, both Seth and I are born in the United States, but like from different points of background that connect with the tefillin is what connects us. So it's the tefillin brings out the unity, because that brings out the Jew in you, which is what I said before. If you're a Jew, you can only be true friends with another Jew, because true means that it comes through and through. So you can talk about, there's certain people, you can talk, 10% beyond zero, 20%. Who can you talk to 100%, like get to the deepest point within yourself, is the Jew. And I think that's really what, and that's why you walk in with tefillin. It cuts through all the stuff that you call, the BS you're talking about, because then we're talking about who are we today, 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. That trueness runs right through the whole thing. It doesn't matter what country you're in, doesn't matter what environment is, what's going on with the people around you. It's just like there's the Jew there going through, whether it's 2,000 years ago or today. Though the world is very much different, that remains the same, and I think that's the power that connects us. And to your frum friend, I would respond to him: tell me when you're coming next time for soccer practice, and we'll have two people to help others wrap tefillin. You make this sort of into a thing, because here's the deal: there's an emergency now, and we're all waking up. So the guy the law student who by chance, I won't tell you the whole story, but it happened to get in touch with him, and he says to me, and you just should know that I put on film for the first time in many, many years, and I'm just doing my little bit. My response to him was, number one, putting on film one time is not a little bit, it's huge. Number two is do it more often. And that's really the idea of yours. It's true that doing every mitzvah is infinite. There's no question about it. Especially film. This is, person puts on film one time. One more little story here. I was at a vigil in Boston Common. There was like 4,000 people there, and there's a center rotunda, and then around it was all the people, and then outside that perimeter was like 4 different Chabad tables with tefillin. And the student comes over, abused student comes over, and oh yeah, my mother's here. I said, oh, great, I'd love to meet your mother. She comes over with another man, and I don't know who he is, but he didn't say mother and father, so I didn't even ask who he was. He's a little bit an older man, slightly built, not too tall, like his figure was not imposing. It was very, very passive. And I said, you want to put on tefillin? And he says, no, I don't want to put on. And this guy's mother says that he doesn't believe this and that. And so gave my line, like, we're all Jewish here. This is a Jewish thing to do. Doing a mitzvah gives strength to the Jewish people. He says, I'll think about it, which to me means, like, stop bothering me. This is the only way I can shut you up. I'll see you later, maybe, in 10 years from now, who knows, whatever. And to my surprise, 10 minutes later, he comes back and says, I'll do it. But like in a very subdued way. It wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to put on film, but I'll do it. So I honed into his mood and reflected the same thing very seriously, no small talk. Explain what the tefillin is. You put it on your arm. It's across your heart. It's on your head with your intellect. You bind it up. It's a mitzvah with Hashem. I put on the tefillin, take it off, and I said Shema with him. Took off the tefillin. I said to him, I hope you felt something. He says to me, getting emotional, I did it for my father. And I'm like, I didn't say a word. I gave him a big hug because this was like I became humbled in front of this man. I don't know what his background is. I don't know what his whole deal is. But at this point, he connected to his father. To me, that means that's a soul connection. That means I'm a Jew. My father, whatever, put on film or whatever it was, but somehow there was that kind of connection. What happens tomorrow? What happens the next day? Hashem should help. This should get over. I don't know, whenever, as soon as possible. Let it happen immediately, whatever. But now you turn to your friends, your soccer dad friends, and you say to them, well, why aren't you doing this every day? What education are your children getting? You know this. You went to college, you met Chabad. What about your kids? Why don't you put on film every single day, which I've told this to you, in front of your children so they should see it. They should know about it. You don't have to shove Judaism down their throat. You have to live it. If you all live it, don't live it. They see you put on film every day. They get it. They're not stupid. They understand what's going on. You want to be more proactive. Yeah, they're going to Hebrew school and this kind of stuff. You take them to shul on Shabbos. It becomes part of their life. And as they get older, you take it to the next level. So I think that's a very important next step. That it's not a one-time deal because this happened. Therefore, we're going to do it. Yes, this is definitely an opportunity when there's an emergency. You need to have like the medics come, and the ambulances. But then when the emergency is over, go to your regular, doctor and learn how to live healthy. Don't wait for the next emergency to happen. And I think that's really an important next step to take. And that's one I would say. I don't know if these people are not really affiliated. I think that the Klein House should have a meeting place, invite mothers and fathers who want to come and talk. Obviously have a nice spread of food because we're Jews, and the Slovakian and the Moldovan specialties. I have no idea what that would be. Like I don't know, pacha or something. Which pacha doesn't know what pacha is even. It's something. It's cooked with cow's legs and eggs in it or something. I don't know, whatever. Kosher cow's legs. No, I'm saying, but seriously, to have like that, and to invite your local Chabad rabbi and to come down and be there as not, I think what was amazing at the meeting at Berkeley, which I was, they had some person that came from some professional from some Jewish organization, and he got all the kids talking. It wasn't him; he was facilitating it, which was great. So you have people coming up and back and doing that, that kind of thing, letting people express how they feel. And as we were talking before the Pos-cast began, was that not everybody is so proud to be out there as a Jew. Not everybody feels so secure to walk in the New York subway with their yarmulke on, because there's a lot of crazy people around doing crazy stuff, and you don't want to be the next, God forbid, the next victim. So you want to be a little more careful. So there's a balance there between saying, to heck with everybody, I'm going to wear my yarmulke wherever I go, and I'm going to be. Like for me, if what am I going to do? I'm going to take my beard off. It's like I'm kind of like, I got this. Is who I am, my friend. There's no layer beneath it that. But so there's room for that and people to talk about it. I think when people talk about it, they strengthen each other. And if everybody says all 40 of us are going to put and I don't care really about putting signs in front of your house. That to me is not. That's not. I'm more interested. Does everybody have a mezuzah on their front door? But that type of thing. Or one day to say to everybody, we're all coming to soccer practice, or to whoever wearing our yarmulke, just as a sign of solidarity. I'm just throwing out ideas. It's not a. And of course, if no one else can come to the Klein household for the first meeting, as you can tell, I drive a lot, so just but yeah, that's so. I think just it's just amazing what you've done, and starting with your personal and then taking it to the next level, and this is I have nothing more to say to anybody. Whoever's listening to this, be Peter Klein. There's nothing more. It's like Tom Jones. Be Peter Klein. You're right. The exterior doesn't make who you are. It's like that neshama thing that expresses itself. And the more we do this, the more goodness will become in the world, the more godliness in the world, which we all know is really the antidote for all the evil in the world, is to reveal godliness. And by doing these mitzvot, Hashem will help, and Mashiach will come. People say, "Oh, this attack came out of nowhere." Okay, let goodness come out of nowhere, unexpected goodness. Hey,
Beautiful.
right? Time.
Amen.
I think that's a wonderful way to end, just on that message right there. So thank you, Peter, for joining us, for being our third guest here on the Pos-cast. Thank you, everyone, for sitting through this wonderful conversation that we've had. We'll see you next week. Have a great Shabbos, everyone.